Welcome to Live and Local, a talk show discussing the organizations, people, and events affecting the Iowa City area. Today, we're joined by John Kenyon, the Executive Director of UNESCO City of Literature. John, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so first of all, just to get started, what is the City of Literature, and why does Iowa City have this designation?
Sure. Well, Iowa City is a city of literature because UNESCO has conferred that designation on us. UNESCO is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, and they have a program called the Creative Cities Network. And they have criteria that they've established in a number of different areas. There's literature, music, film, gastronomy. There's 7 different areas. And cities can kind of weigh what they have against that set of criteria and decide whether they want to apply. They created this project back in 2004, and folks, mostly at the University of Iowa in the International Writing Program, had learned about the project, about the criteria that were out there, and decided to put together an application on behalf of Iowa City. And UNESCO agreed with us that we were worthy of that designation, as anyone in Iowa City could tell you. And so in 2008, at the end of the year, they gave us the designation as the 3rd city of literature in the world. Since then, we've been joined by 4 other cities. So there's Edinburgh, Scotland, Melbourne, Australia, Iowa City, Dublin, Ireland, Norwich, England, Reykjavik, Iceland, and Krakow, Poland.
Oh, wow.
So we're in pretty good company.
Do you get to visit all those on a yearly basis?
I wish, but I have stepped up my travel considerably since I've been in this position, and hope to get to all of them soon.
What are some of the criteria, and what makes Iowa City unique for that?
Sure. A lot of the criteria focus on having strong writing programs, educational components to that. Obviously, with the Writers' Workshop here being the best advanced degree writing program in the country, if not the world, we were kind of a shoo-in for that designation based on that alone. With the great libraries we have in Iowa City, North Liberty, Coralville, and all the surrounding areas, the great bookstores, the fact that there are a lot of writers who live here, who have come through here, all of that kind of aggregates and makes Iowa City worthy of this designation.
What types of things does the City of Literature organization do?
Sure. I kind of break our duties into maybe 3 different areas. I mean, there's working with and interfacing with the other cities of literature. So we have started some collaborative projects with those groups and just work with communicating to people about what that means to be a part of that network. There's kind of an advocacy component where we make sure that people locally know about who we are and what we do, why we're a city of literature. I mean, things like this today are part of that. But also letting people in the state and the region and the nation and eventually the world, know about Iowa City and what we are doing here. And then kind of the 3rd leg of that stool is programming, which is part of the reason we're here today. We do the book festival that we'll talk about. We also do the One Book, Two Book Children's Literature Festival in the winter. We'd have other smaller projects that we do. We have a student essay contest where the top prize is a year of free tuition to the university. We give an annual literary prize to a writer. There's a lot of things that are really there to kind of elevate the literary culture in Iowa City.
Talk about One Book, Two Book. I know a lot of my friends have gotten involved. I have not yet, but...
Sure, we'll get you.
Good.
So One Book, Two Book is a festival that celebrates writing for and by kids, and those 2 components are important. The writing for kids, we have authors come in and give talks to the kids, some workshops to talk about how they got where they are and how they get their ideas, and just reading and really trying to connect with the kids. But it's the writing by kids that is probably the most unique part of the program. We ask students in grades 1 through 8 to write an original piece of work. It can be a poem, a story, an essay, song lyrics. We had some graphic novel pages last year. And our partners with Pearson here in town evaluate those pieces of writing, and we select some of the best, and not necessarily just the best grammatically. We also have categories for if you tell a great story, but maybe you don't have the math, or excuse me, the grammar or the punctuation together correctly. And we celebrate those kids. We give them an opportunity to see that creative expression is something that could be celebrated in our community just as much as athletic achievement or any of the other things that kids do so well. So that is an opportunity. We get hundreds of kids to participate in this program, and then we have it all culminate in a weekend event where we celebrate through a banquet on Friday night. We have a Saturday full of programming with authors and opportunities for kids to learn. And then we have further recognition on our new event that we started on Sunday last year that will continue this year.
Good. So Book Festival, what's the history of that and what's going on?
Sure. So the Book Festival was started in 2009. It was actually right around the time that we had learned that we were going to be a city of literature. Some folks at the University of Maine Library said a city of literature should have a book festival. And I wholeheartedly concur. They also started it in part because of a couple of different reasons. They had just acquired their 5 millionth volume at the library, and they wanted to celebrate that. Think about that for a moment. And then they also wanted to kind of thank the community for the help that the community had given to the library with the floods. In 2008, during the summer, if you'll recall, there was kind of a fireman's brigade where they would get books out of the basement of the library and take them to safety so they wouldn't get ruined. And so all of these different things culminated in the library wanting to have an opportunity to kind of thank the community and celebrate. And so they put together a good book festival. They invited some authors in and had some events. And over time that spiraled up and became a much bigger event. My organization got involved pretty early on. And 2 years ago, we started having conversations with the folks at the library about perhaps passing that off to us, that it felt perhaps a little bit more germane to our mission than theirs. And so last year, we ran the book festival for the first time in its 5th year. And now it's coming up again as we look at our 2nd and overall the 6th year for the event.
And what are the dates of that? That
will be October 2nd through the 5th of this year.
And what are some of the highlights this year?
Well, I'm pleased to say we have a lot of them this year. We have, I'll maybe just kind of go chronologically here. We'll start on Thursday night with James Ellroy, who was the author of L.A. Confidential and The Black Dahlia and several great crime fiction novels. And he will be giving a free talk at Old Brick. That'll be at 7:30 on Thursday, October 2nd. He'll be interviewed by a fellow crime novelist, Craig McDonald, who has interviewed Ellroy several times and is definitely an expert on his work. And so I'm hoping we learn a few tidbits that people maybe didn't know before. Then on Friday, we will have a couple of big events. Marilyn Robinson, our local Pulitzer Prize winner, will unveil her new novel, Lila. And she will be in conversation with Ayanna Mathis, who is a former student of Marilyn's at the Writers' Workshop. She's probably best known to folks as the author of the book 12 Tribes of Hattie, which was an Oprah Book Club 2.0 pick a couple of years ago and got a lot of justifiable notoriety for that. And so the two of them will be in conversation talking about the creative process, about Marilyn's new book. This is, of course, the kind of third in a loose trilogy of books that started with Gilead, which is the book that won the Pulitzer for her about a decade ago. Home was the subsequent book, and now this new Lila book kind of follows that same path. That same evening, we will have an event at the Film Scene. We're excited to partner with those folks downtown. James Ellroy is going to stick around for an extra night, and he is going to introduce and talk about the film L.A. Confidential that was made from his book. And so those are a hot ticket. They're already going fast. They went on sale to the public today, actually. And hopefully by the time we air, there'll still be some left for folks. That is a great opportunity for folks to kind of see a different side of Ellroy's work and have a chance to see that film.
Many of the events are free, though, correct?
Yes, that is actually the only event that has a ticket price to it. Everything else in the festival is free. That's a good point to make. And then on Saturday, we have a full slate of events. We have about 25 authors that we've invited to come in and give readings and sit in discussions. And then about 25 members of this year's class of the International Writing Program at the university are going to take part as well and sit on some panel discussions. We've got some very provocative topics, and it was great. We did this for the first time last year, where we had IWP writers and the writers that we had invited commingling on these panels and talking about things. So suddenly your talk about the role of place in your novel takes on some added weight when you have somebody from Israel or somebody from Afghanistan talking about that, as opposed to somebody from New York or Los Angeles. Right. And so we're very excited about that again. We have a book fair that will go on all day on the pedestrian mall. Events are from 10 to 5, I should point that out. We have readings and panel discussions and things at several different locations around downtown. We will be at the main library in the meeting room A. We'll be at Prairie Lights. We'll be at the Java House, Senior Center, Midwest One Bank, and their gorgeous new meeting space up on their 6th floor downtown. They're going to host some panel discussions, so a lot of opportunities for people to get out around town.
Where's the best place to find the information and schedule?
Sure. The best place right now is on our website, which is iowациtybookfestival.org. There is a brand new print program that we've just put the finishing touches on that is available to download there. And that will also then be available in Little Village. It'll be inserted in their September 17th issue. And then we'll have it at single locations around town, the libraries and coffee shops and things like that as well.
Neat.
Yeah. And then on Sunday, we have what we've traditionally called a Day in the City of Literature, where rather than having a lot of events at a few locations, we have a few events at many locations. And so we actually start the day at the Englert at 1 o'clock with Jane Smiley, another Iowa-based Pulitzer winner. She'll be unveiling her new novel called Some Luck. And that is the first time that she has kind of returned to Iowa farmland to write since 1,000 Acres, which is the book that earned her the Pulitzer and obviously was turned into a big movie and sold scads of copies around here and all around the world. After Jane gives her presentation, we have a lot of events going on all over town at venues. They're too numerous to mention, but they're all listed on the website. A lot of local and regional authors on Sunday. What we try to do is for the authors that we invite in, we try to have them earlier in the weekend so that they have an opportunity to head home. And for the folks who are around here, we then give them the stage on Sunday and let folks see that we have just as much talent here as we do bringing in, which is, again, part of the reason we're a city of literature in the first place.
So just getting back to the whole UNESCO and the City of Literature, Iowa City's always been known, as you mentioned, for literature. What direct impact have you seen since you received this designation?
Yeah, a lot of people have asked me that, and I can't point to big tangible things, I mean, other than like the book festival continuing to grow and take on the prominence it has. But what I think it has done is it's enabled people to do things that they maybe thought about and hadn't pursued for whatever reason. You know, having the City of Literature designation is kind of like this imprimatur that they say, okay, this is worthwhile. If I'm in a city of literature, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to start a reading series. I'm going to open a bookstore. I'm going to do whatever it is. I'm going to move here because I'm a writer and I want to live in a city of literature if I'm a writer. So I think it's all of those things, and those are all maybe smaller things, but in aggregate it just means that a literary culture that was already deemed one of the 7 best in the world is that much better 6 years down the road.
Have you seen an impact as far as recruiting, whether it's young writers coming, professors to the Writers' Workshop?
I wouldn't say necessarily there's been an impact because of the City of Literature designation. It's, again, one of those things. The Writers' Workshop has been the top program for years. And, you know, despite the girls dust up and everything else that's gone on, you know, they maintain that. And it's because of the quality of the administration over there. Obviously, Lance Samantha Chang is doing a fantastic job, and it's the quality of the instructors. They, you know, again, in poetry and in fiction, they get the top people in the world to come and work and write here and teach. And then it's the students. You know, it's one of those things where if you're the best young student writer, you apply to the workshop because you want to come here. Yeah. You want to be around these people, not only these instructors, but your peers that you know are the best of the best. And if you have what it takes, you want to put yourself up against those folks. So I think that ultimately is part of it, and then that just kind of perpetuates itself as continuing reasons why we have this designation.
And our designation is a 3rd city
Yes.
of literature. Can you explain what that means and what
Sure.
distinction?
Sure. Well, it just means that we got in early, really.
Okay.
So the program was created in 2004, as I said, by UNESCO. Edinburgh was the first member of the Creative Cities Network overall. So the first city of any designation was a city of literature. Then there was a pretty good lag while they started to name cities in other disciplines, in music and film and the media arts, for example. And then we had the idea of becoming the second city of literature in the world. So did the folks in Melbourne. And so I think we both got our applications in at roughly the same time. I think Melbourne maybe got theirs in a little bit before us. So they were named in, I think, September of 2008, and then we followed in November. So, you know, it just means that people here in Iowa City were on the ball. They realized this was a great opportunity. And again, UNESCO agreed. You know, there's a story that I like to tell that Christopher Merrill with the International Writing Program, he's so well connected all around the world. He does work on behalf of the State Department, and just because they have had 1,400 some odd writers from all over the world come through this program, he's very well connected. And he actually had reached out to UNESCO and said, what would you think about Iowa City applying for this designation? And the response he got was, well, we've been waiting for your call. So, I mean, I think that says something when this international organization notices a town of 67,000 people in the middle of the heartland. We're doing something right here.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your background and what interested you in getting involved in this directly.
Sure. Well, my background's in journalism. I went to school here at Iowa and earned a journalism degree and have worked in newspapers for most of my career. I was at the Gazette for a long time and then helped to start the Corridor Business Journal. After that, I was actually involved with the organization as a member of the board. I had, once I learned we had the designation and knew that the next step was to form an organization and that a board was going to be put together, I made sure to let the folks who were in charge of that know that I wanted to be involved. I've been, kind of on the periphery of the literary world here in Iowa City ever since I came to town as an undergrad. I just going to readings of Prairie Lights, patronizing the bookstores, meeting writers, dabbling in a little writing of my own, always wanted to be a part of that and be involved. And so I was able to secure a spot on the board. And then a couple of years ago, when our previous executive director moved on, I let the board know that I was interested in the role, and here we are. So.
How can other people get involved?
Well, there are a lot of different ways to get involved. I mean, both just as kind of the more abstract idea of the City of Literature and then with our organization. There are a lot of volunteer opportunities that are out there for the festival. It takes a lot of people to bring this off. It's certainly not just me by any stretch of the imagination. And folks can get on the festival website to learn about those opportunities. And again, that's iowicitybookfestival.org. We have other opportunities volunteering for the One Book, Two Book Festival or different things throughout the course of the year. And then really just beyond that, I would love for people to get involved in the literary community. Again, the reason we have this designation is because of all of the wonderful programs and assets that we have here from a literary standpoint. And go to readings, take a class, buy a book, go to the library. I mean, do those things. Most people do that anyway, and again, that's why we're a city of literature. And one thing I didn't mention is that kind of one of the abstract criteria is that you need to have literature and literacy be part of the fabric of your community. It needs to be something that the community values, and that if you come to town, you understand this is a city of literature. You can have a lot of those other assets, but if people don't really embrace it, you don't qualify as a city of literature. And so we have that a lot, but I, again, see one of my goals in my role is to make sure that people are aware of all those assets and opportunities to get involved. And so, they can get on our organization's website, which is cityofliteratureUSA.org, which is kind of separate from the book festival site, and learn about a lot of opportunities and a lot of things that are going on.
Going back to just the volunteer part of it, what types of things can people do, like specifically with the One Book, Two Book, or with this upcoming festival? What can people do specifically?
Sure. Well, with this festival, with all of our events, excuse me, we have room hosts who are in the room, making sure the authors have what they need, introducing them, making sure the crowd is, seated and ready to go when the event's supposed to start. So, we have about 50 different events over the course of the weekend, so there are a lot of opportunities for things like that. Just people to help with setup and tear down and making sure authors get to the right place. There's a lot of opportunities along there. Some of the volunteer opportunities are a little more unique with One Book, Two Book. For those who have been there, we have the big costume characters, the big Clifford, the big Skippy John Jones, and there are opportunities, rather sweaty opportunities, I will say, to portray one of those characters. People genuinely like doing that. I mean, I wish my kids looked at me the way they look at Clifford when he comes bounding into the room, so.
Do they wash those suits in between uses?
As far as you know, they do, yes.
Good.
And other than that, again, a lot of kind of wrangling opportunities, just make sure that kids get in the right place, that authors get in the right place. And there are opportunities to get involved at a more basic level early on and help us with planning and organization and things like that. If people are watching and have ideas for ways they think those festivals could be better, I would love for them to reach out to us and let us know.
Well, and you said you got involved before you were the executive director, just on the board.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, again, there's a lot of people in the community that are involved in making this happen. I have a tremendous board of leaders from all over the community. We have committees for our major events that go out beyond the board and draw in people, a lot of support from the university, from area schools. The city obviously has been a tremendous supporter of ours as well. So there's, again, there are a lot of moving pieces and a lot of people moving those into place.
As part of UNESCO, what interactions have you had with some of those other cities, and how has that kind of helped grow Iowa City, the culture here?
Sure. I really think that ultimately that might be the best part of this designation, the thing that comes out of it that's the most valuable for us. We have so many assets and so many things on offer here that there might not be as many opportunities to grow that because we've already taken advantage of so many things. So by bringing in assets or ideas or people from outside, that's really a way that we can grow things. So I've had the opportunity to meet with all of my colleagues. We get together on an annual basis. I'm about to fly off to Chengdu, China in a couple of weeks for an annual UNESCO meeting. They're a city of gastronomy, so I'm looking forward to dining very well there. But so we have talked a lot about different collaborative things that we can do, both just sharing of best practices. If we have a video interview series that we do called On the Fly that we're actually going to be launching, kind of relaunching very soon, where we do video interviews with authors who are coming through. I've already done all the legwork on what that needs to look like, and we've devised a separate website for that. So my colleagues don't necessarily need to do that from scratch. I can give them that and say, here's how you do something like this, and they can do that for me.
It's a great tool.
Yeah, we've also collaborated on a couple of different projects that I'm excited about. One is the folks in Dublin had a program to celebrate the 75th anniversary of James Joyce's Finnegan's Wake. For anybody that's tried to wade through Finnegan's Wake, it is a chore. It is about 700 pages of what looks like gibberish. But the great thing about the book is that gibberish, when you read it aloud, it kind of comes alive and you realize that he's really playing with words. He uses words from many different languages and words that he made up. And when you read them aloud, suddenly it's kind of like a word puzzle almost. You go, oh, this is what he's trying to say. So the folks in Dublin found 7 of the most accessible parts of the book, short stories out of that, if you will, and assigned those to all the cities of literature and asked us to make short films based on those. So we locally worked with the folks at Riverside Theater and had Ron Clark and Patrick Delaney act out this scene that we had been given. Ours, luckily, was a dialogue between the two characters. And so they put together this short scene. We went over to Riverside Theater and filmed it, and then we sent it off to Dublin, and they showed that this last May as part of an overall project with all 7 films to celebrate the 75th anniversary. To tie it back to the book festival, we're going to be showing 6 of those films at the book festival on Saturday morning at 10 at Film Scene, and then Ron is going to come over and talk about the process of trying to put this gibberish into play. So that was one project that was great, something that we would never think to do on our own, but collaboratively it worked out very well. There's another project that's ongoing with Krakow. They have a project on their big main square that they will project poetry onto a downtown wall, and they have done that with their poets for a couple of years now. to kind of embrace the international designation, they solicited poems from the other cities of literature. So I worked with the city and selected some poems from the Poetry in Public project, where people have seen those poems on the wall at the library, on the wall at the rec center, and buses. And we found some of the better poems, or the better fitting poems, because it's kind of a small spot on the wall, and sent those over. And so we've had a couple of Iowa City poets up on their wall so far, so people who are walking along the main square in Krakow are reading the work of Iowa City poets and Melbourne poets and Edinburgh poets, and they have translated those into Polish, and so I've been able to send to a couple of our local writers so far. It's like, well, here's a picture of your poem up on the wall, and here's what it looks like in Polish. And so the great thing is that we're now talking amongst the other cities of doing that kind of thing in our cities. We have all of the poems from all of the cities now, so it's just a matter of formatting them and projecting them on our walls. So stay tuned in 2015, because I think we'll have something interesting for Iowa City in that regard.
That's really neat. Before we wrap up today, any final tidbits or any last plugs you want to give about the upcoming events?
Sure. Well, you know, again, the book festival, as I said, we have about 50 events over the course of 4 days, so there's a lot there. I would encourage people to download that print program or seek it out in Little Village or at the libraries when it's available, and you know, really go through there and take a look. You know, in the past, we've brought in some great authors, and I've been told, well, you need some kind of top of the poster folks that people have heard of, so they get excited about it. Well, 2 Pulitzer Prize winners, and you know, somebody with the charisma of James Ellroy, I think we've done that. Yeah. And so I hope that that draws people to take a look, but not just to go to those big events, but to really dive in and take a look. We've got a very diverse range of writers. We've got some nonfiction, some poetry, memoir, a lot of great fiction, some crime fiction, some you know, all types of things. And I truly think that there's something for everybody, and a lot of opportunities to come out and experience the City of Literature.
Well, John, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure learning more about UNESCO and the City of Literature, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Right. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. My name is Brian McConnell, and I've been your host of Live and Local on PATV Channel 18. Be sure to tune in every Wednesday for the latest episode of Live and Local. Thank you.